Hi, it's Eva Cartman, and you're listening to the Dream Big podcast show, the place to go to learn, laugh, and grow. Today we welcome legendary Hollywood composer James Newton Howard. James's body of work is so impressive that I can guarantee you he has written the music for many of your favorite movies. This is episode 165. You ready? It's time to dream big.
Welcome to the Dream Big podcast show. We're inspiring you to shoot for the moon, take aim and go. We bring to you amazing guests who truly love what they do. Every day they're living their dreams, and so can you. Dream big, take action to reach your goals. Are you pumped yet? It's showtime, let's rock and roll.
Hi, big dreamers. Before I introduce James Newton Howard, I wanted to let you know that you can now get my free Confidence Secrets course, which is over 1 hour of me teaching you about how to develop your superpower of self-belief. We are going to be taking down this Confidence Secrets course in the near future because it will be part of the Academy, which we will be launching very soon. If you are a younger big dreamer listening to this, please ask your parents to help you get this free course while it's still available at dreambigpodcast.com/beta. Okay, now let's turn our attention to this week's amazing guest, James Newton Howard. James has composed music for over 120 films, including the Academy Award-nominated scores for Defiance, Michael Clayton, The Village, The Fugitive, The Prince of Tides, and My Best Friend's Wedding, and Academy Award-nominated songs for Junior and One Fine Day. More recently, he wrote the music for the blockbuster Hunger Games and Fantastic Beasts series. He has so many incredible stories and nuggets of wisdom to share from 30-plus years of experience, and I can't wait for you all to soak up all that wisdom James is about to share. So without further ado, let's roll the tape. Hi, James.
Hi, Eva. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Never better, really. I'm feeling very good. I'm here in sunny Santa Monica, my studio.
We're so excited to have you on the Dream Big podcast.
Well, thank you for asking. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know from my research that you did not grow up dreaming of being a composer. You were actually trained as a classical pianist, and the opportunity to write the music for your first film was actually presented to you. So can you share the story of how you got into being a film composer?
Sure. First of all, so many things happened in my career that were completely a surprise and unexpected. And I think everybody should remember that because a lot of times you don't end up doing exactly what you plan on doing. I was a session musician after I'd been a classical pianist, and I left USC as a piano performance major. And after being quite successful as a session musician, somebody offered me a movie, and I turned it down at first because I was scared. I didn't know how to do a movie. And then they kept saying, "Well, you should try it. You've got the ability to do this kind of thing." So I did it, and sure enough, it was the best thing I ever did musically, and I've been very fortunate to keep doing them ever since.
That's amazing, James. And for some of our younger big dreamers who don't know what they want to do in their life yet, I think that this is a great lesson. Like, you knew that you loved music and got training and experience in the music industry, but you weren't sure of the precise end goal, and that's fine. If you are following your passion, then sometimes opportunities will present themselves to you.
I really agree with you, Eva. I think people, especially, by the time you get into college or when you're getting to that age, people, a lot of times kids they'll major in one thing because they feel like they have the pressure to major in something. But during that period of time, they may find themselves interested in another direction. And it's good to be open-minded.
I'm curious about how you write music for films. Does the entire movie get edited and delivered to you with the dialogue between the characters, and then do you have to create the music to put on top of that? Or do you get delivered bits and pieces of the movie and you can compose when the movie is in production?
Well, those are good questions. And I would say that it comes to me in all kinds of ways. I'm a composer that likes to start working very early. So I like to get images or ideas even before they start shooting. And a lot of times I'll just write music just for the sake of writing music based on the script or the story or a conversation with the director. And then when I start to get the movie, it's always in a very rough form, and they're going to usually make it shorter. So I have to just keep writing different versions of the music depending on what new version of the movie I keep getting, and it's quite a long process, and it's kind of like running a marathon.
That's amazing. And I know you told this wonderful analogy in one of your interviews about how you look at composing like cooking. So when you take a sauce and make a reduction out of it, continuously passing it through a strainer until the music accomplishes what it needs to do with as few notes as possible. But you said it much more eloquently. So can you share that analogy and how it describes your writing process?
Well, I think, that what I was trying to say is that some in cooking, and my wife happens to be a spectacular cook. I'm not much of a cook, but I watch her cook, and she will begin with quite a large number of ingredients, and then pretty soon she adds more ingredients, and then she reduces it to a finer kind of sauce, and then before you know it, it's quite a small bit of sauce, but it's been processed and carefully created. And I think that's what happens with music, that through a collaboration, because I'm always partnering with a director. And I'll write a piece of music and the director will come back to me and say, well, I love it, but I don't like this part. And then it's like cooking. I cook it a little more and I present it to him again or her again. A lot of times I work with women directors as well. And I just keep going back and forth. So it's kind of like, it's similar, if you know what I mean, to just kind of reducing something to its purest, best form.
I love that analogy, James, and I think that it can be applied to other fields other than music. So, like when you're tasked with writing a paper at school, you can start by brainstorming and writing out all your thoughts, but then you can edit that down to get to the final paper, which is clear and short. If you have to prepare a speech, again, you can just jot down everything you could potentially cover, but then narrow down the scope to clearly express what you want to your audience, right?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, how did you get so smart? How old are you?
I'm 10.
Well, those are really very good suggestions. And I don't think I learned those suggestions until I was about 44. So you're 34 years ahead of me. Yeah, it's true. And I tell this to a lot of young composers. I said the most important thing is just to write some music. Don't worry about trying to fit it to the movie. Just turn off the movie and just start writing. Put down every little thought you have, and then go back later and think about how it might fit the film and how you might connect one piece to another. But you're right. In the beginning, it's just good to just get it all out.
That's amazing advice for our big dreamers. Like, just start by getting all your ideas down, and then you can just work with it and just...
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the most important thing, for a film composer is to write, or for any composer, is to write music. And I mean good music. And some people get stuck trying to just be so concerned about fitting it to every second in the movie that they forget that, what I should have done is started out writing a piece of music that is interesting and has some real content to it and also serves the movie first and foremost. But don't forget that you have to write good music to begin with.
I know that you've scored over 120 films in your legendary career as a composer. You have become famous for your ability to write beautiful music very, very quickly. But I heard you say in an interview that you only had 5 weeks to write nearly 3 hours of music for the movie King Kong. Now, I know that was extreme, but I'm curious, do you like having deadlines, and why do you think that deadlines are important?
Well, there's a couple of questions there. First of all, that the King Kong experience was absolutely a one-off. It was unique. That was total craziness. And I wanted to do it because I wanted to work with Peter Jackson, and I wanted to do a movie. I wanted to do a King Kong movie because I grew up watching a very old version of King Kong. And I do like deadlines, but I don't like them to be that severe. That was just too short.
Yeah.
But I do like, it's good to have a target and a structure within which to work. So I do really well with deadlines, and I do happen to be a fast composer, and I'm not bragging about that. It's just some people write fast, some people write slow, and I happen to write fast, which actually fits my work pretty well.
You're right. Like some people that like I am a very fast reader, and
I bet.
like I can read books in a day, whereas like some people it takes them a week or so. But it's fine because you're still doing what you love and you're still getting it done.
That's right. And what school do you? I mean, you don't have to tell me what school, but you're probably in. Let me think. Third grade.
I am in 5th grade.
Fifth grade. Did you skip a year?
Nope.
You're very young to be in fifth grade, but it's really great to hear that you love reading so much because that's a very important part of our life.
We've talked a lot on the podcast about setting SMART goals, where S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is action-oriented, R is relevant, and T is timely. I know that setting deadlines is really important because it puts it on the calendar and it prompts you to take action to hit your goal in time. So even if you don't have a deadline like James was given in King Kong, it's always good to set a deadline for yourself, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good to have a plan every day, and a lot of writers, in fact, Ernest Hemingway, one of the great all-time American writers, back in probably the 20s and 30s, said that no matter whether he wrote anything or not, he sat at his desk in that chair for a minimum of 3 hours a day. And some days he would write 10 pages, and some days he would write one paragraph, and some days perhaps he would write nothing. But you can't do the work unless you're present. And so you have to be there and commit to that time. I think that's really important.
I think that musical scores are sometimes unappreciated by audiences because the general public never gets to see a movie without the music. For instance, like you can't watch the movie Fantastic Beasts without the music. But what you can do, and what I encourage everyone listening to do, is just listen to the soundtrack of the movie. Like we listened to Fantastic Beasts music in advance of this interview, and it was so beautiful and dramatic, with what sounds like a full orchestra and singers too. Can you share just how big of a team effort it is to put together these soundtracks?
Yeah, it's a lot of people. I mean, I'm the composer, but then I work with people that help me orchestrate it, which means they take my music and help prepare it onto the page so that the musicians can read it properly and quickly. Very often we have 100 musicians inside. Well, in the case of Fantastic Beasts, we were recording at a studio in London called Abbey Road, which was kind of a famous studio where the Beatles worked and many, many other people. But so you have orchestras and engineers and music editors and copyists, people that take the music and copy it out for each individual player. And then you have people that engineer and record the music. And, it involves sometimes 120, 130 people. So I have a very great team and I'm very lucky.
I've seen videos of you in sound studios conducting huge orchestras, and it's amazing to think that all of the talented musicians involved in taking what you wrote and actually playing it. So I would encourage all big dreamers to be more aware of the music in films they are watching.
I think that's a good idea. People oftentimes just take it for granted. They don't really pay attention to music because a lot of people feel that, well, if movie music is really doing its job, you don't notice it. And a lot of times that is true because you're so involved in the movie, the music is kind of working on you in a subconscious way where you're not really paying attention. But that's not always the case. But it is kind of eye-opening to go home afterwards and just listen to the music and realize what was actually there.
That is so true. And again, it's an amazing lesson for all of our big dreamers to just always make sure that you're focusing on also the little parts of the movie, and they're actually really, and they may seem little, but they are actually, it takes a giant amount of effort, and it takes a huge team.
Yes, it does. And, the thing that you have to remember as a composer, that the most important thing you're doing is storytelling. You're telling a story. And if you're not telling the same story that the movie's telling, then you're going to have a problem. So I'm always really focused on what the director wants to say and how I can help them say it better.
That's amazing. J.K. Rowling is by far and away my favorite author of all time. I've read the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts series countless times, and also I went with my mom to London, and we actually got a chance to go to the Harry Potter set where they filmed all the movies, and it is just an amazing place. So I know that you're working with a lot of creative geniuses, but I am curious, did you have a chance to interact with J.K. Rowling during Fantastic Beasts? And if so, what was that like?
Eva, I've never met J.K. Rowling, which is kind of odd, but I haven't. We just haven't crossed paths. I come along when the movie's kind of done just about, and the production's done, and the shooting's all done, and we just haven't had the opportunity to meet. I have a feeling we'll meet on the next one, which they're going to start shooting in February, I think, of next year. So why don't we just plan on getting together again in a year, and I'll tell you what it was like.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Good.
Now, I know that the wizarding world and the characters that J.K. creates in her books are so remarkable, but I never thought that movies can do them justice. But I've loved the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts movies, and that is so cool that you have helped brought J.K.'s book to life with the music in Fantastic Beasts.
Well, thank you. It's been a real honor. It's a movie I wanted to do really badly because it's a great story and it's great for music. All that magic stuff and fantasy stuff is really my favorite kind of music to write. So it's really, really fun to do it.
So you've scored so many movie classics over your remarkable career. The Fugitive, The Prince of Tides, My Best Friend's Wedding, Pretty Woman, Batman Begins, Blood Diamond, Hunger Games, and Fantastic Beasts, just to name a few. So you've accomplished a lot in your career, and I'm curious what drives you to keep composing, and do you feel that you are still improving as a composer, even at this stage in your career?
Well, I think the thing that drives me is just the love of music and of, you have these three different things. You have a movie, and then you have the music, and then when you put the movie and the music together, you get a third thing, which is kind of what I would just call as pure magic, when music and pictures interact. I think that's probably my biggest drive. And I do try and be better with every movie. I have a thought in my mind that every movie I do, every time I do a movie, I feel privileged to work on it. And definitely in my heart, I'm going to work as hard as I can to make the best score I've ever written. And that's what I always try and do. Not everybody might agree with that, but certainly that is my motivation.
I love that answer, James. The great Les Brown said that practice does not make perfect. Practice makes progress. You don't want perfection to be the standard because you'll never be perfect. But you can always improve, and it is so admirable that after a career that puts you as one of the top composers in Hollywood, you're still striving to get better and to improve.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think if you get to the point where you don't want to improve, then you should retire and do something else because you're not helping the people that hired you. And I feel I really have an obligation when I'm hired by somebody to do the best job I can, because generally speaking, a director can be working on a movie for a couple of years. And I come along and I'm only working on it for maybe 5 or 6 months, but I want to give them 100% of my effort during that period of time.
That's amazing. So at the end of my interviews, I always like to ask the same set of questions to my guests. So these will be more rapid fire style, where I'll ask you the question, get your response, and move to the next one. Sound good?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
If you go back in time and talk to your 10-year-old self, what would be the best advice?
Be a good listener.
When you have doubted yourself in the past, what made you overcome those fears and continue to pursue your dream?
Try not to focus on negative thoughts and just move forward.
You have already made many of your dreams a reality, but if you look at yourself today, what is your big dream for the future?
That's a hard question. My big dream for the future is that we have peace in our world and that I am able to contribute and help people feel good and have the ability to escape the difficulties of life by going to see a movie and listening to beautiful music.
Wow, that is amazing. And for our very last question, where can our audience find out more about you?
I'm very press shy. I don't do very many interviews. I don't know if you know that, but I do have a website called jamesnewtonhoward.com. I'm not sure how up to date it is because I haven't done anything on it in years. Well, not years, in about a year. But I would say, I don't do Instagram and I don't do Facebook and I don't do any of that stuff. So, gosh, I don't know, Eva. Just, they can always write me at my agents and ask me questions and I'll write them back.
Wow. And big dreamers, just remember, just listen to the movies that James has composed in and listen for that music that's in there. And it's really beautiful. So remember, just listen.
Well, Eva, it's been really great talking to you. I think you're very smart, and you ask great questions, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you so much.
All right, it's been a pleasure.
I loved having you on our podcast. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. A huge thank you to James Newton Howard for being my guest. It is always inspiring when you hear from someone that accomplished, who's considered one of the very best in the world and still looking to improve, to get better, to develop that unique gift that we all have inside of us. As always, all the links to everything we discussed are on our show notes at dreambigpodcast.com/165. Did you enjoy this special episode? If so, please tell your friends and family about the Dream Big podcast. If everyone listening can just tell one person about this episode, that would lead to a chain reaction that would get the Dream Big podcast in front of so many new people, which would be amazing. If you're getting value from the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes at dreambigpodcast.com/iTunes. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified whenever we release a new episode. Finally, if you're interested in being part of the Dream Big Academy, please go to dreambigpodcast.com/beta. And right now, we are giving away the Confidence Secrets course for free. We are going to be pulling this free course down very soon since it will be part of the Academy when it launches. So have your parents go to dreambigpodcast.com/beta to get the free course that includes over 1 hour of me teaching you how to become more confident, which is the key to achieving your big dreams. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Eva Cartman reminding you that you have unlimited potential. Your dreams are not optional, you need to make them essential. So take massive action to turn those big dreams into reality. Live with passion, the way life was meant to be. I'll see you next episode. Bye!